everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Trainer Fee. We are your hosts. My name is Angel Sanchez. With me, I have Mr. David Bravo.
What's up?
And on today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about Olympic lifting. So, David's specialty. Um, in this episode, I just want to cover a couple of bases, like what is Olympic lifting? Who is it for? How has it been advertised? So, how has it been like brought to the masses? And then just some things to think about when lifting. So I think David's a good guy to talk to about all this stuff because David is a master of Olympic lifting, and yeah, it's like better to ask the expertise. Let's get your expertise. Put that to the
Well,
test.
first, I'm not an expert or a master.
What are you?
Um, I am a
Self-proclaimed black belt in Olympic lifting.
no. I am somebody that is, how do you say it? I'm very interested in it, and I've done it, and I've done it for a while, and I have experience in it. There you go. I don't have my USAW cert, which is something I've always wanted to. Um, but it's expensive, and also you got to look at it logistically. Where if you get a certification in USAW, are you going to realistically use it?
Mm.
And I think where I work, it's not a place where usually there are people that want to do that. Um, especially space wise and equipment wise. So it's something that isn't super it doesn't make sense. Um, so anyway, O lifting is part of the Olympics, of course. Usually, Olympic lifters or weightlifters will just call it weightlifting. So that's where the confusion happens. Where if somebody tells you that they do the clean and jerk and snatch, which are the two lifts, then they're like, "Oh, you do CrossFit," and they're like, "No, it's weightlifting." Because CrossFit adds all these other elements and all these other components to the weightlifting aspect, the clean and jerk stuff. So the biggest thing is it's usually for lifting in a technical way, really heavy weight over your head. Um, and it's a big skill because it takes a while to learn it. Like it took me a while to actually ever like compete and actually ever um, put up weights that I would consider heavy,
Mm.
Um, but it's for everyone. I think it's a great sport. It's a great thing to get into because I think it teaches you other skills in life. Like it will teach you discipline, patience, um, I guess, just functional, quote unquote, right, training where it does have a great carryover, I think, to sports because of the explosiveness and the mobility demands that it has. Um, it's gotten popular, I think, in the early 2000s because of CrossFit, because CrossFit started and then people were doing all these lifts and people were like, oh shit, what the hell, what is this? And people would start doing it. In the beginning, they wouldn't do it correctly, of course, because it's a new thing. So people really weren't heavily invested in, okay, I'm going to get a weightlifting coach. Because also, they weren't, I mean, it depends on where in the States you are to get an actual, weightlifting coach that has experience. And also the space, because you need your bumpers. The bumper plates are the plates that you're able to like drop and they kind of bounce and they wouldn't break if you drop them. A platform that you need in order to drop the weights and sort of mimic a competition platform. So you needed to go out of your way to do it. Now with the emergence of CrossFit and how much I think better it has gotten, um, and it's introduced weightlifting to women, which is a whole other thing where women and other like non-gender, binary people, LGBTQ plus stuff, like they all now are interested in it because of I think CrossFit because it has brought it into a lot of people's world. And the coaches are getting better. There are more weightlifting coaches that are available to teach it, and CrossFit boxes have the space to actually have all the equipment for it. We could get into the financial aspect of it, but that's a whole another issue. Um, it's a whole nother, like, I think, sociological issue where it affects a lot of people. But I think that people should definitely get into it because I think it's a great way to teach somebody how to squat, deadlift, shoulder press, use their body in a full explosive way. Um, and I think it's fun. I think it's great. Like it's great camaraderie, great community around weightlifting. Um, Especially if somebody's not um, comfortable enough to go into the gym and do things their own. If you do O lifting or weightlifting, you find a coach, go to an actual weightlifting gym, and everybody's there to better each other. I think one of the things there is it really doesn't matter how much you're squatting, how much you're benching, how much you're deadlifting. It's as long as you're trying. You hit a 1 kilogram PR, then everybody's like rooting for you. Whereas I think that in the regular commercial gym setting, it's a little different, right? There, it's a little more subjectively based and aesthetically based. So there are people that would get intimidated, you know. But yeah, I think it's great. I haven't done it in a while because of time, and it's just one of the things where you kind of like fall out of it a little bit. Um, Something I would like to get back into, but time constraints have made it a little tough.
Do you feel like CrossFit was one of those catalysts in regards to like bringing it to more people to train and like do that style of training?
Yeah,
I know you had mentioned it a little bit earlier, but like there are some people who say like it was a good thing, or some people who say it was a bad thing. And part of me feels like it's probably like a mixed bag because it's similar to like bodybuilding and how bodybuilding brought attention to weightlifting or resistance training. And before that, it was kind of like not too many people did it. And then like bodybuilders did it, and people were like, I want to be like that guy. And then they started doing it for better or for worse. It put it on the map. What about you? Do you feel like CrossFit like put Olympic lifting on the map, so to speak? And then if so, like was it a net positive or a net negative?
I think it did, right. It did put it in the map, in the vision of a lot of people where they're like, this is something that looks kind of cool. Let me try it. Um, I think there are a lot more pros than cons. If you're a physical therapist, then you have a lot of pros with it. Because there are people that end up getting hurt because it's a very technical issue. It's a very technical lift. And my biggest issue with CrossFit is that, um, at least when I was looking into it years ago, I'm sure it's better now. I've always thought that they would put people into the lion's den super quickly. Like I always thought they would just, all right, here's a PVC pipe. This is how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Go get a barbell and try it out. And
Mm-hmm.
um, not saying that they would give them an immense amount of weight, but for some people, 45 pounds or 20
Mm-hmm.
kilograms is its weight. And there are people that say, well, we have a weekend course, or I never give somebody more than a PVC pipe in the beginning. I'm like, okay, great. So how long are you gonna, you know, have the PVC pipe for? 3 days? Okay, but it's weird. Um, but like I said, now a lot of coaches are better at it. So a lot of coaches have their USAW certificate and then know more about weightlifting. So I think the teaching is better. But like you said, with bodybuilding, you start somewhere. Um, they see Arnold Schwarzenegger and they're like, "Oh, look, I want to be like him," and then they'll go bench press, and maybe they've never tried it before, and maybe in the beginning it works because as a newbie you get those immediate gains from just something different that you're doing. But eventually you're going to want somebody to teach you how to do something maybe in a better way, or maybe you want to get into more competitive powerlifting where bench press is one of the lifts. So you need to look for better avenues of education and knowledge. So I think it does have more positive than negatives because of the exposure it gave weightlifting and training for people of all sizes and gender identities and sexual orientations and stuff like that. So I think the only negative would be that people might get injured a little bit. from doing things too quickly, too fast.
And do you think, like, for people who are just starting out with exercise and fitness and they see it and they're just like, wow, I really want to do it, do you feel like they can just start out with Olympic lifting to start? Or do
I
you think
think
that they need to
that you,
build a foundation with
yeah.
other lifts first and then graduate to Olympic lifting? Like, is Olympic lifting for you a progression of some of the basic movement patterns that it comprises?
Well, for
That
me, if I have a
comprises.
client that says I want to do Olympic lifting, first I would see if they could squat to
Mm-hmm.
depth, if they could push over their head correctly, if they could do all these things. And if they can't, then we wouldn't do weightlifting yet. I would have
Mm-hmm.
them work on their squats and deadlifts and presses and get them stronger. And that could take 6 weeks, take 6 to 8 weeks. Um, and then start off, I think. And that, I mean, for some people, that could seem like really slow.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in order to stay in a safe way, because depending on how many times you see this client, too, it's not like you're going to see them 3 to 5 times a week. If that's the case, then maybe it'll be 4 weeks of just foundational strength. But for the typical client, which is typically 2 to 3 times a week, I'd say more 2 times a week, then I would take my time with them and try to tell them that it's important to get the foundations right in order to progress, properly. So getting your squat up, getting your deadlift up, learning how to front squat, learning how to press, learning how to jump. Even it's like some people don't know really how to jump, and a lot of it is triple extension and stuff. Um, so yeah, I think you need a foundation, and you need to learn how to do certain things before you could fully immerse yourself in weightlifting.
That's good to know just for people who are starting out, or coaches that are looking to introduce it to their clients. Because obviously you don't want people to hurt themselves. And some people might get discouraged, like they might be working with a trainer and they'll be like, listen, I told this guy I wanted an Olympic lift and all we've been doing is like, some jumps or some squats or, some press ups, or I'm just holding the bar and I'm just gripping the bar for like 10, 15 minutes. And then I'm setting the bar down. Like I'm not throwing anything up anywhere or moving anything anywhere.
Yeah,
So I think it is a good point that you made mention to that, and then also the reason behind it. Um,
yeah. Well, I mean, you could give them a training bar, which is only
yeah.
like 15 pounds, and have them go over the lifts, go over the movements. But in terms of adding like any significant amount of weight, then I know that takes time.
So the last thing I wanted to ask you, and then we'll kind of wrap it up after this. I know I've been like interviewing you on this episode, but I think it's good because like, dude, like we have specialties, and it's good to have people speak about their specialties. But anyway, uh, is it a slap in the face to the Olympic lifting community for people to be doing Olympic movements, Olympic style movements with kettlebells or with dumbbells or other tools aside from the barbell? Like, is there part of the community that's like purist and like a snatch is with a barbell, a clean is with a barbell, and like this is all you do? Or is it just like the community is more open to interpretation when it comes to things like that? It's like you can definitely clean with a barbell or snatch with a barbell.
Mm-hmm.
And then is one more beneficial than the other from a training perspective?
Well, you're always gonna have purists that are like that, where they're like, "This is." I mean, I'm a purist when it comes to when you say something's a clean. Like there are two things. Like when we do something's a clean, you lift it from the floor, catch it in a front squat position at the bottom of a squat, and stand up. Some people
Mm,
call it squat cleans, and I always
mm.
find it kind of weird. I'm like, okay, a clean is a clean. You have a hand clean, and then you have a power clean. A squat clean, I'm just like, that's redundant. So that's just me. That's my own like purist notion.
Yeah.
Um, but when it comes to like doing cleans and stuff with other like types of with other equipment, I don't mind it. I do it with kettlebells and stuff, and I teach a client if a client wants to just work with kettlebells, then I still want them to clean and snatch. I'm not gonna be like, okay, we're never gonna do this because you're using kettlebells. It's more of like all right, we have kettlebells. This is a different type of movement. This is a different type of training, but it's still called that. And that's because that's how I learned it. I learned it
Mhm.
in that way. There are times where I see terms being thrown around that I never really heard of, and I'm like, the fuck is that? Um, but a lot of it, have to sometimes learn new things, especially with kettlebells. When I learned kettlebell stuff, that was already like that. You already had the kettlebell clean, you already had the kettlebell snatch, so
And do you feel like one is more beneficial than the other from a training perspective with clients?
no, I don't think so. I think if somebody wants to compete in Olympic lifting, then they have to do a barbell. That's just how it is, you know. And if somebody just wants to get better at kettlebells, then we do it that way. It all depends on the training client. I don't think there's
And
any. I don't think there's any benefit over the other.
I was gonna say like, would you? I think I know the answer to it myself, but like, would you ever use the kettlebell or the dumbbell in order to help teach a barbell Olympic lift?
Maybe I'll teach a kettlebell swing to get
Mm.
the hip power. Ultimately, you're not going to lift as heavy with kettlebells. That's just how
Yeah.
it is. You could always lift more with a barbell because you just add more weight.
Yeah, there was somebody who was getting after it on Instagram. It's like people just put like these blanket statements. They're like goblet squats suck. And then it's like read the caption. And the caption is like you can only load so much by holding onto the weight with a kettlebell or a dumbbell. But with a barbell on your back or like holding it, you're gonna have more load, therefore you're whatever, whatever. But
Yeah,
like the
no
blanket
shit.
statements is goblet squats suck.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you have statements like that in the caption, I'm like, yeah, no shit. Like
Right.
this isn't new.
Yeah.
How
It
about
gets
you?
people to click on it.
Yeah.
Anywho. Cool. All right, so we'll wrap it up. It's been a good time sitting down and getting the one-to-one talk with Coach Obi-Wan Kenobi, David Bravo of Olympic Lifting. Thank you so much, y'all, for listening. And if you like more of these, feel free to let us know in the comments and or DMs, and make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow David on Instagram, slide in his DMs. We'll see y'all in the next one.
See ya.
Peace.